Greetings, everyone. This is not about what you're carrying while life still works. No advice, no answer. Just the truth that most people avoid because they're broke, because nothing's broke. If this is familiar, good. Welcome to Two Coaches, One Truth. Good afternoon, Melissa.
What's up, Richard? How are you?
Not too bad. How's it going today?
Fantastic. It's a bright, sunny day outside and it's not cold, so it's going good.
Nice. This is Vegas, and I love the weather out here at this time of year. I think today we're supposed to get up to 70 degrees.
I think so too. I mean, I literally was sitting outside earlier and just soaking in the sun because it was just so nice out here and it's January and it's 70 degrees, so can't get any better, especially since it was like 40 degrees last week.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm excited. You know, we've been talking a lot about different challenges that people are having throughout their lives and what you and I both experienced as coaches. And I wanted to jump into a conversation today about the unnamed experience. And so, as I was thinking about this particular episode, I was thinking about some of the things that I hear people say, and I wonder what's behind that. And so, I want to throw something out to you to kind of help us jumpstart this session of the podcast. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready. Let's go.
All
What's the
right, here
question?
we go. So, when a person says that everything is fine, what do you notice beneath that as a coach?
As a coach, as an individual, I know that I have a bad habit of that too. And usually it's because if I say what's truly on my mind, the other person is going to be upset. It's going to create conflict, or I don't really want to share with the other person. And if you think about that, that sharing is where is it that we're truly being vulnerable and honest with ourselves as well as the other person? It's something that I hear adults say, something I hear kids say. It's something that when it's a word fine, I'm fine, there's something more to behind it because if you look at their body language or you look at their tonality of it, they just don't want to share what thoughts are truly on their mind. So it's
Yeah.
you're lying to yourself and you're lying to the other person. So what usually comes up is that it's a misalignment of who you are and who the other person is in front of you because you don't trust that moment that's happening. But
Um, can we pause right there? I want you to say that again slowly because as you're talking, I'm thinking about an individual that that they may be walking throughout their day, and you say, "Well, how are you doing today?" And they go, "Everything's fine." How do you process that? How do you understand? Or are there assumptions being drawn? I'm curious.
I think it's nature and habit to automatically say, I'm fine when somebody walks by, and it can be a just normal, and we're just engaging and we want to be respectful. So we're just going to respond something. It's like, hi, I'm fine. Or hello, good morning. But when it's intimate and it's somebody that you really know, it's usually something more behind I'm fine. Where is it that I want to explore even more? But when it's just in passing with random strangers, usually it's, oh, hey, how's your day? Oh, I'm fine. Have a good day. It doesn't mean anything behind that. It's just they're just keep moving along and they want to be respectful and actually say something.
And I even think about myself when people say, "Well, how are you doing? Everything's fine." If I meet a stranger, "How's it going?" Everything's fine. I think it's situational. I think it's who you're talking to, and sometimes it's like being from Jersey, it's mind your business. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like sometimes, like I don't know you, so how dare you try to jump into that type of conversation? Any feedback on that?
Which is so true. But think about it, like, because it when did this become common language? And it's like, "How was your day?" You ask a kid, "How was your day?" "I'm good." Same concept is, "I don't know you, so I'm not gonna actually give you that information." And again, yeah, being from Jersey, it's like, "Mind your business. I'm not gonna tell you how I am today. I'm just gonna tell you I'm fine because I'm gonna keep moving on upon my day, and I don't really know you."
But what if it's
But where
somebody
did that
close to
become
you?
common
Yeah. Well, when did it become common?
in everyday language?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I don't know. But the more important question I have for you is, what if it's somebody that's close to you and they say, "Hey," everything's fine. And you can, as an individual and a coach, you can tell that there's something off.
When anybody close to me says I'm fine, my next question is, what was something good about your day today? Or what was one of your struggles for today? Because it's so easy for us to just come off as I'm fine. But when we go into additional verbiage and truly telling people how we feel, that's leaning into vulnerability. And that's leaning into getting an opinion from the other side that we may not want. So, do I even want to share those thoughts from my head? But those thoughts are still running in my head and going over, and I can be not fine at all. And it can be a really crappy, crappy day. Yet, my significant other, my son asked me, "How you doing, mom?" "I'm fine." Because I don't really want to show that I'm vulnerable or that there's something wrong.
So, if I hear you correctly, you're saying that I'm fine is a defense mechanism or a protection mechanism.
Correct. And it's where people lie to themselves. So think about where people are lying to themselves because they don't want to share what other people have, but not realizing that that other person on the other side, they may not be fine either. But because you said I'm fine, they're not willing to share, man, I had a really crappy day, Richard. And this is what happened today. And not just sharing actual experiences. It's where is it that experience is not shared because we want to lie to ourselves that everything is good, or lie to ourselves that if we don't talk about it, it doesn't exist. So whatever that thought is that's going on in my head, it'll just go away eventually. Have you
Yeah,
ever thought about that? Has that ever happened to you?
I have, and I look at it from two different lenses. One is dependent upon individual. I'm fine is yeah, I'm okay, or I don't know you, and so why would I share that with you? Or does the person asking the question really want to know? So I have three different perspectives on that, and most of the time, I try to sit back and evaluate based upon the circumstances, the situation, and who I'm talking to. A lot of times for me, when I'm dealing with individuals that say I'm fine, if it's a family member, I look for body language, I look for tonality, I look for different things that will help me understand what is behind I'm fine. And I try to ask questions that open them up to create that psychological safety for them. In different scenarios that I've been in as a coach, when I hear I'm fine, I try to get them to define what that definition of fine means. Can you break that down for me so that I understand what fine looks like to you so you and I are using the same language and that there comes a level of understanding that I can support you in being fine. I can tell for myself when I'm in that mood or I'm processing because I process hard. When a person says to me, "How's everything going?" or I say, "Hey, everything's fine," and I got that look on my face, they can generally tell because I wear my emotions on my sleeve and in my face. It's like, okay, I can tell, right, that you're not fine. And then that's when I always say, well, I need a minute to process what you just said or what I'm experiencing. That's my own personal belief in how I kind of interact with people. But as a coach, I try to use more subtle understanding of the individual once I built rapport and established a connection because I think their body language, tonality, the look in the face, the look in the eyes, that says a lot about an individual's position. And I think to your point, most people use I'm fine as or everything's fine as a protection mechanism, not necessarily a defense mechanism, but as a protection mechanism, as in I'm going to hold on to my emotions first until I feel like I can speak about this in a way that will help the person I'm talking to understand.
And it is about understanding. And there's something that you said that I want to circle back to. Is does the person really want to know? Is what you said. But is that us making an assumption that the other person doesn't really want to know? Because if I don't really want to know how you're doing today and it's somebody that's close to me or how your day went, I wouldn't have asked. So where is it that I'm now making the assumption that you don't really want to know? So where is it that I might not trust you to be vulnerable enough to actually say what I need to say?
That's a great question. And if I don't know you, then you asking me about my day or how's everything going, and I say everything's fine. That's not me being making an assumption. I'm just not willing to share at that particular point in time. But if
How
I
are
know you and I feel comfortable to open up and I say that everything's fine, then that may be an opportunity for the individual to dig a little bit deeper. I think the bigger issue for me is what is the internal perspective of the individual that is going through that, giving the answer, everything's fine. What are they experiencing in that moment?
why do we make it about other people? Why don't we just make it about ourselves though, right? Like, why do we have to worry about what the other person's internally thinking? Why can't we just share, and even if it's a stranger or not, that's an opportunity to open up and get to know somebody and possibly allow that other person on the other side to open up to us. To where are we waiting for that person to come to us versus us being the initiator and having this conversation, be like, you know what? Today's really not the greatest day. Really wish that things would have gone differently. And they haven't. So I'm just gonna share that. Like, have you ever felt that way? Just
Uh,
to even open a dialogue with a random stranger, and how are we closing ourselves off to something or someone that's magical because we're keeping everything so surface level?
well, I think that great question. And I'll take a CEO or someone that's in a high performer dealing with different situations. They're looking for, in many cases, I think the conversation is about who do I know, like, and trust, right? That's how they do business. Who do I know, like, and trust? So if I don't know you, I can't trust you, and are you likable? And I think that in many cases, or in some cases, people try to be very measured in their approach, especially when you're talking about high performers. I think for, people like me, I want to be, in, I don't necessarily like to share until I'm comfortable with the individual or until I understand what I'm processing emotionally. So if a stranger asks me that question, or even a relative, if they ask me that question and I'm not in a position or frame of mind to share, I'm not going to share. And what I'm trying to uncover when people ask me questions is not what their motive is, but where am I at in my own head in terms of how I want to interact with that person. I'm naturally an introvert. So someone approaching me and saying, "How's everything going?" My normal response is everything's fine, and keep it pushing. Doesn't mean it's necessarily correct. And it's not disregarding the individual, but it is about me in that particular situation because they're talking directly to me. So for me, I'm looking at it from I appreciate the question, but I'm not in a position to be vulnerable to you because I don't know you. I don't know like if I like you and I don't know if I can trust you at this particular point in time. Or I know you, I like you, but I haven't processed information to give it to you in a way that I think would make sense to you because I'm still trying to understand myself. And I think in many cases, it's an opportunity to slow down and not make the assumption, but to ask the questions to dig a little bit deeper based upon a relationship you have with the individual.
What are some of the things that you would ask the other individual to show that you're truly interested? Have you ever thought about that?
I do, and I think it's a great conversation to have. But I think asking questions are the most important part of communication because it helps you understand someone better in their situation. You don't want to ask questions that are intrusive, but you want to ask questions that help you establish common ground and knowledge so that you can have a conversation around a particular situation. Case in point, I'm thinking about a high performer who's maxed out. They're doing a bunch of things. They're running at high energy. Or I'll take it a step further and I'll say a parent. When I'm dealing with youth and I'm seeing them struggle, the parents struggle, and I'm talking to the parent, I may ask them something totally off the cuff that has nothing to do with what they're talking about at that particular point in time to open them up to a different kind of dialogue and then ask a question that pertains to how they're feeling, what's going on with them. So it might not be, is everything fine? I may be able to look at them and say, "Hey, I'm reading their face and their body language and just start the conversation. I noticed that today you showed up a little bit early and you seem like you got a smile on your face. how's everything going? Is everything fine? And that's when you'll get that feedback, that would help you understand where they're coming from. And if they're, for me, it's about body language, conversation, and the look in their eyes. If I can look in their eyes and see what's going on, I can pretty much figure out what might be the best approach for me. What about you? Where do you see this show up internally before it becomes something people talk about? And what I mean by that question is when you're looking at someone and you're reading their conversation, their body language, where do you see this show up that everything is either fine or not fine, or there's a signal that says, "Hey, let me dig a little bit deeper on this particular situation."
It's usually a facial expression, or their shoulders get super tight, or they get fidgety, right? Or their cheeks turn red. So it's always, or even their tone changes, like there's a crack in their voice because they're just barely holding it together. So, like, when I'm coaching, I'll dive in deeper and I'll say, I hear that little crack in your voice. What's really on your mind right now? If you had to just verbally vomit at this moment, what would come out? And it's okay to say anything and everything at this moment. It usually allows them the space to be like, okay, this is a safe space because it's not only about trusting the other person on the other side, it's also about feeling safe in the space that you're in and who you're talking to. So it's more of trust and a safe space. So there's always that additional that allows you to know they don't feel safe in this space right now, or they don't trust me right now to be that vulnerable person. And so you can tell within how their language is with nonverbal cues, their facial expressions, their tonality. And those are nonverbal cues that we can learn from. But that's when you dive in deeper and ask a little question. And a great thing that I do sometimes is like you talked about being a parent. So my son always says, "How was your day from school?" "It was good. I'm fine." "Okay. If you had to describe your day today in 2 adjectives, what were those 2 adjectives?" And then I get 2 adjectives because then that'll tell me how their day was and how they're showing up in this moment. And then I know, okay, well, why did you feel sad today? What made you feel sad today? And then I can dive a little bit deeper into whatever he said. So as a parent, I'm fine. It's just brushing me off most of the time because he's wanting to go play video games or he wants to go play with his friends or wants to go do something else. So let me appease mom for a second and let me peace out.
Yeah.
It's like, what's next? But for adults, usually I'm fine and high performers is like you said, I'm really busy. I just need to move on to the next. Or I really don't want to share with this person that's on the other side because the space that I'm in is not a safe space.
You mentioned safe space quite a bit, and I wanna pause right here and kinda dive into how do you define safe space?
A safe space is when you feel that no matter what you say or what you do is going to be received in a positive manner versus somebody coming back and prejudging you, or somebody coming back and questioning your motives, or somebody coming back and telling you you might be wrong. So it's where can I truly take a deep breath and let go and be like, oh, and say whatever I have to say and know that however it lands on that other side, I'm still okay. So it's about trusting myself and knowing that no matter what happens on that outside, what's happening right now in this, I'm okay. I feel good. I feel okay. And I just truly can be in this moment.
So are you saying that let me back this down a little bit. I'm trying to make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that as a coach, that you're trying to create a space for what?
A space for them to be vulnerable, a
And
space
what
for
does
them
that
to know that
Mhm.
no matter what they say to me, it stays between them and I, and there's no judgment. That it is okay to have any thought and to say it out loud, and there's gonna be 0 judgments that we can work through, and it is your feelings. So, when they say it and they're vulnerable, this is how they're feeling. So just taking that moment and acknowledging, you know what? That really sucks that you feel that way, or that really sucks that that happened. I may not agree with what they're saying. I may not like with what they're saying, but that's how they're feeling on that side. So as a coach, I accept it for what they are. And I just want them to know that they can say it. They can act
Right.
however they want to. They can say whatever they want to, that we're going to work through it. And I'm not here to agree or disagree. I'm here to guide them to what their goal is or what their experience is. And again, I don't have to agree. I just have to listen. Because as a
Yeah.
coach, that's what we're here for. We're here to listen. We're here to challenge. We're here to ask questions. We're here to be like, oh, that sounds good. But is that really true? Did that really happen? Or is that your perspective?
As you're talking about that, I'm thinking about coaching and when we're dealing with clients and we're trying to create that psychological safety for them, how do you determine the difference between I'm fine, you've created a psychological safety environment for them, and you're stretching them to make them uncomfortable, right? Because I think about the word everything's fine. There could be a level of uncomfortability in sharing with you. And yet the goal is to create psychological safety to stretch them even more by asking uncomfortable questions. So, in your experience, how do you facilitate or balance those three things out?
That's where I ask them what the adjectives are. Because everything's fine doesn't allow me to really know much half the time. It could be fine. It could be everything's gravy and they're moving along their day. So if I ask, what are your two adjectives that describe how you're feeling right now? That allows me to dive in a little bit deeper into each aspect to truly get some information out of them because this is going to be uncomfortable. And they're meeting with me as a coach because I'm made to make them uncomfortable. So the reason why they're talking to me is to make them uncomfortable and to get past that barrier of whatever that barrier may be. And they may not even know what that barrier is. So allowing myself to ask just even adjectives, short and sweet, so that way I'm not poking and I'm still that psychological safety is still there. That allows me to have that open door and that opens that door usually most times for that person on the other side to then be like, let me be honest with myself. Because sometimes I'm fine is masking even what they want to admit to themselves. Have you
I
found that?
want to, I want to, I want to pause that for a second because something just popped into my head as you said that. So you said as a coach, your job is to make them uncomfortable. And when I think about clients coming to me as a coach, do you think they come to you for comfort? And can they come to you for both?
They can come for you for both. But being uncomfortable is where growth actually happens. If we want to stay in our comfort zone, they can continue doing the habits or the behaviors that they've been doing this whole time. Yet when you go to a coach, you want to grow, and growth comes with being uncomfortable.
Or does that depend upon the type of coach you are? Right. I mean, I think this is such a key point because I think for me, when I hear I'm fine, everything's fine, I'm hearing if I'm coaching you, I want to dig deeper. But if I'm digging deeper and I'm making you uncomfortable, you're not going to be fine. Would you? I mean, does that make sense?
It does make sense. But if the other person, you're digging deeper and they're being uncomfortable, as a coach, wouldn't you explore what is actually making them uncomfortable about going into this avenue of subject, whatever they're talking about? Because that might be an area that's coachable that they're not willing to open up yet or want to go down. So, as a coach, it's our job to go into that, our job to ask and truly explore where that is. So, wouldn't you try to explore that avenue more if you notice that the other person's being uncomfortable? Would you change how you're asking the questions?
100%. Technique is to assess as I present information and to clarify what I'm seeing. But I'm thinking about the individual that if I'm when I'm coaching them and I had a client and listened to the conversation, what she was saying and what she was responding to were two different things. And so that's an opportunity for me to explore deeply by asking non-threatening questions, but questions that would open her up or allow her to share her story to help me clarify, is what I'm seeing valid? So I think it's all situational. And I think about the person that's walking through life every day and their attitude is everything's fine. And I go back to, is the what does fine mean to them when they say that? Right. And I try to, for me, is I try to understand the message behind everything's fine. I don't make assumptions. I want clarification. I seek to clarify most things in my life by asking very direct questions because I want to get on the same page through common language. We all look at life a little bit differently. We all see things and interpret words differently. And in order for me to help my client, I need to understand exactly what those words are. And in order for me to create psychological safety, I also need to know what makes them feel safe in this particular situation. And to be authentic and saying, my job is to make you uncomfortable, but not to make you unsafe. There's a difference, right? I want to have that conversation with you. I want to be as and I understand that I'm not for everybody. It's like this podcast is not for everybody. I want to. I mean, even the look on my face. Sometimes people say, "Well, you look serious." No, I'm focused. When a client walks in my door, they're not paying me to walk away feeling the same way they did. They're coming in for me to help them figure out what's the next step, the next direction to reach their destination quicker. My job as a coach to close the gap. My job is not to hold your hand and babysit you. If you do want me to do that, there's a daycare down the street I can direct you to, right? And that's not to be disingenuous or serious, but I mean, I'm here to move the needle, and that's kind of my mission in life is I want to make things happen for people because I know that what it did for me. I know that someone I felt more comfortable when someone gave me it to me whether I was prepared or not. They gut punched me with the truth and they were authentic in their approach, not to hold my hand. So you have different coaches that do different things. My coaching method is I want to dive in deep. I want to get it where we got to go. I want you to walk away feeling everything is fine and I've grown in this process. But if a client walks in and everything's fine and they walk out, everything's fine, and they have not grown from the discomfort, then I believe I failed them as a coach. So for me, everything's fine is an opportunity to dig a little bit deeper, to understand who they are, and at the same time, understanding what needs to happen to move them forward. And too many times I've experienced people that talk and they're not saying anything. They're not going anywhere. They're having conversation. Me, I'm intentional. So my conversation is going somewhere, hence the reason why I dive in with a focused approach. I can be funny, but at the same time, I want to make sure that I understand that my client has gotten his or her money's worth. So I want to make sure I'm moving them in a direction. So I take everything's fine in a couple of different ways. And so I think about you and how you move a client forward when they say everything's fine. And I'll leave that at the last words. So I want you to share that with me, please.
I always ask for them to explain a little bit more about what fine is. Like, okay, so what happened today? What's been going on today? What are the thoughts going in your head? That way I can know where to direct this conversation. Half the time when people tell me they're fine, I literally just make a look and they're like, all right, this part's really good, this part's not, because I have that look. And they're like, she wants more. And they give me more. So it's a lot easier for me to guide that conversation when it comes to that due to the fact that I'll give them a look like, you sure everything's fine? There's got to be something that's up. There's got to be something that's good, really good. Or there might be something that's not good. Or is it all just I'm moving along and I'm barely surviving and I'm just trying to get one thing done at a time? So it's just letting them elaborate more by digging in a little deeper, like you asked, and like you said.
That's awesome. And as we close out this session, I love how you ended on that key note. Nothing broke today. That's why most people stay. They don't change. They're just getting stronger at carrying it. This is two coaches and one truth. Have a good day.